Finding an audience to target with your Facebook ads can be a challenge, and even sometimes overwhelming because of how much Facebook throws at you. Today, we're going to be cutting through the weeds here and helping you laser target your ideal customer with the help of these 4 tips. What's up, guys? Nikita here from aspectagency.com, and let's go ahead and get into this video. So tip number 1 here is one of the more important tips, and if anything, this is the most important tip because here is where our foundation is built, and the foundation that basically all of your audience targeting as well as your messaging comes from. And this is none other than creating a ideal customer avatar. Now, I'm sure you've heard this time and time again, and I'm here to say it as well, but creating an ideal customer avatar is very, very important, and is, if anything, is very crucial for your business, because here you outline exactly what your customer is like, what they not only look like, but what they where they spend their most time at, what kind of situation they're going through in their life right now. All of these questions and all these answers to these questions are very important to help you not only target people on Facebook, but also structure your messaging on Facebook and structure your messaging in a way where it resonates with this person. And you're killing 2 birds with one stone by actually getting this done properly. And one of the ways you can get this done properly is by putting yourself into the customer's shoes and then interrogating yourself. Now, may sound a little woo-woo here, but if anything, it'll help you sort of embody the customer and think like the customer, so that way when you're about to launch ads or about to put out this new creative, you'll know exactly whether the customer will probably resonate with it or not. So once again, so you can ask yourself just basic questions like, what's the age and gender, or what kind of income this ideal customer has, and what kind of education they have, or where does this customer live, southern region of the US, south of France, North Britain, all of these things. And then where do they work, and at work, what kind of software do they use, or what do they do at work, what is their position, things along those lines. These are the basics. And by the way, I have all of these questions written down in my latest article on the website aspectagency.com/resources. And if anything, I'll go ahead and link it down below, so that way you can go ahead and check out all these questions. But you can move on to some more sensitive questions afterwards, like asking what kind of situation is the customer in, or what kind of situation they're going through right now, what kind of pain or suffering they're going through by not having your product. What is their ideal situation, and how does that ideal situation get them there through your product? These are more situational questions, but these questions are very important behind finding the motivation behind them buying your product. Next up is finding where they live, and we're not talking about literally, we're not tracking down their IP address, but essentially, where do they live digitally, and what things do they interact with on a daily basis? And this includes like what kind of interests or hobbies do this ideal customer have? Are there any certain meetups they go to? Do they go to fresh markets on a weekly basis? What kind of values do they have? Are they Christian raised, or Jewish raised, or Muslim raised? Things along those lines. What kind of goals do they have? Are there any challenges that they're going through right now? And then you can get into something more tangible here, like what kind of media do they consume? What kind of clothes do they wear on a daily basis? What are the brands of those clothes? You can target people based off those brands. Like, for example, Lululemon is one of the audiences that we're using with one of our clients, and it's killing it right now because we know that our ideal customer shops at Lululemon, drinks Starbucks, maybe has a Peloton or knows of Peloton, and that is, the ideal customer that we're targeting. And, one of our e-com clients is doing really well with that audience stack. And yeah, what kind of media they consume, blogs, podcasts, TV shows, YouTube channels, and even TikTok accounts that they follow, can help you understand what this customer is like and how to outline this customer when it comes down to it. And like I mentioned, this is very crucial, and I would highly recommend for you to go through all the questions that I have listed on my website and actually answer them. Copy them, paste them in like a Google Doc or a Word doc, and start answering them in the position of a customer. And here you'll actually understand a lot about what your customer is like, what your customer wants, dreams, desires, and how does this customer actually do things on a daily basis, and what motivates them, and how would your product actually help motivate them even further. We do this with every single one of our clients, and it's actually a non-negotiable. So as soon as we onboard a client, we make sure that they fill this out to a T, because without it, our marketing is not going to do that well, because that's how seriously we take it here. So next up, the next tip is Audience Insights and Interest Explorer. Now, you may have heard already of Audience Insights. It's a very built-in feature, and it's a free feature within Facebook, and it helps you break down your audience. You put in an interest, or you put in a specific demographic, and it helps you understand, or not understand, but it helps you see what the audience breakdown is. What the audience breakdown shows you, like whether the person, or what the percentage of people went to college, or what percent of people are into a specific interest, what do these people work. So it helps you, it helps maybe fuel the questions that you're asking yourself in the previous tip. But here, like I said, there's a lot of data. You can get lost in the data and go through analysis paralysis. And the problem with that is you'll never really come to a decision. But, here it's very important to cut down on all of those, cut down on the interests that you are interested in, and pick the main 10 or 15 interests that you would want to target within your audience. And from here, the problem with Audience Insights is you can't necessarily target every single audience that you see on there, or target every single interest that you see on there. So it can get a little tricky behind finding the audience that you want to actually use. So one thing I would recommend doing, if you want to negate that, is by actually setting up a dummy ad and testing out all the different interests that you see within that dummy ad to see if you can actually target them within the interest targeting section of your ad set. One thing that can help speed this process up and actually help you find affinity audiences like Facebook does is a tool I personally use with my team, is Interest Explorer. And Interest Explorer is just like Audience Insights, but with a cleaner dashboard, and it actually just shows you what interest you can target on Facebook and what's the size of that interest. And we personally look for interests anywhere between 700,000 and 1 million plus, because that helps with scalability, and it helps with if we're going to be using multiple audience to interest stack, which is going to be the next point here. But yeah, like I said, the problem with Audience Insights is you cannot target some audiences, and it can get a little clunky within the Facebook UI. So Interest Explorer is where we sort of do most of our audience research. And the cool thing about that tool is you can go ahead and set up specific interests in specific organizational groups within the account. So that way for us, for a specific client, we have one ad or one targeting group, and one for one client, one targeting group for another client, and so on and so forth. So for example, if we're testing through a bunch of audiences, we can just keep going down the list of audiences that we put in that client group, and basically have everything organized in one place, not on Facebook, but on Interest Explorer. And while it is paid, I definitely think it's very well worth the investment. And I'm going to go ahead and include a link down below in the description where you can go ahead and get this tool. Now, not an affiliate link, so don't have to worry about anything there. So like I briefly mentioned in the previous point, audience stacking is another tip that we personally use a lot at Aspect. And what audience stacking is basically taking similar interests, putting them all together in one targeting ad set, and testing them out. And the main point of that is just to go ahead and test multiple similar audiences if we have a lower budget, or we don't have a budget to allocate to a lot more granular audience testing. So what I mean by audience stacking is you take similar audiences. Like for example, here would be, like I mentioned in the previous example, like Lululemon. You know, you'll take Lululemon, Fabletics, Athleta. Those are all three brands that have a huge following with women's leggings. So if our ideal customer wears women's leggings, or they're a woman and they wear leggings, so we'll target them using that audience stack. So that could be a legging stack. So it has Lululemon in there, Athleta, and Fabletics. For example, that's the legging stack. And we'll go ahead and test out that legging stack and see how it performs with the rest of our tests. Because, you know, if we were to test out Lululemon individually, then Athleta individually, and then Fabletics individually, that's going to be, you know, a lot more budget being spent versus when you combine all of them. Or another one could be like a protein bar stack, where you take all the protein bar companies like Clif Bar, Onnit, Bulletproof, Optimum Nutrition, all of those companies together, and then you put them all into one audience. So audience stacking is very important and highly recommended if you're trying to run rapid tests and you want to run through a bunch of different audience types or different types of sections of your audience in a very quick amount of time and test through that. Next tip here is using the breakdown tool, and I left this one for last because here you actually have to run ads in order to see what kind of data you can gather, because everything beforehand you can use without running ads. Here you actually have to, you know, put the money on the table and run some ads. So using the breakdown tool, we can go ahead and see specific demographics or breakdowns of audiences and of the specific, like where our budget was spent, what the cost per clicks were, what the cost per milli was, the cost per 1,000 people reached, and see, like, and make a more quantitative decision to where we should like target our ideal customer. So for example, if we spent $200 on a campaign or an ad set where we noticed where like 50% of the budget went to and our targeting here is open, age 18 to 65 and up. We've noticed that 50% of our budget went to 18 to 24-year-olds, and then 25% went from 25 to 34-year-olds. So here we understand that our core audience, or most of the people that are responding to our ads, are between 18 and 35 or 18 and 34. And we would also look at the purchases and see how it correlates with that age group. But essentially, we can see that we would want to go ahead and trim our age audiences down to 18 to 35. And same thing if you're testing between male and female, you see which one responds better. So if you can see that 70% of sales are coming in from female audiences, then you might want to go ahead and trim down your targeting to just female. And there you can also adjust your copy to be more responsive and to be more relatable to female audiences. So that's another cool thing behind the breakdown tool. You can not only see who to target, you can also see how you can change your messaging around the people you target. So for example, the type of messaging you use with Gen Z is going to be 100% different than the ones that you target with people that are 55 or 65 and up, because completely different generations, completely different tech stacks essentially these people use. So the breakdown tool is very, very crucial, and I highly recommend it. And this isn't going to be a video about targeting if we're not going to be talking about lookalike audiences. So highly recommend lookalike audiences if you're not using them already. I personally, for me it's a hit or miss, 70% hit, 30% miss, depending on the client ad account and the client ad account that we're managing. Here I would just recommend testing through them and seeing if they work for your specific ad account or your specific brand. We personally like to do anywhere between 1%, 3%, 5%, and then 10%. Mostly going on the 10% lately, mainly because we have a larger pool of audience to choose from, and it works very well when it comes to scaling our campaigns. So highly recommend looking into lookalikes, or you should probably know this, it's like the trademark Facebook tool that everyone uses. And next up is full broad targeting. Here is no targeting whatsoever. Maybe specifics like age and gender are at play, but there's no interests. You're only excluding people that have purchased or looked at your website. And you're basically, you know, like, you're not throwing darts at a dartboard to see where it sticks, but here you're basically leveraging the creative and copy that you've developed through normal targeting to see how it will stack up with a more scalable audience, which is full broad targeting. And you're basically letting Facebook take the wheel on this campaign, because Facebook is just going to use your creative, your copy variations with the pixel data that it has to go ahead and try and match you with ideal buyers. And with that being said, I would recommend to only use full broad targeting when you have a warmed up pixel, 100, 200, 300 plus purchases already on the pixel, and when you have your creative and copy locked down. Because without that, you won't be able to go ahead and scale full broad targeting campaigns at all, because you don't have a proven creative, don't have proven copy, and the pixel doesn't know who to look for. So those are the only times where I recommend doing full broad targeting, and that's where it actually starts to work. And it has worked for some of our clients, and for some of our clients it hasn't worked. And it goes back to that same reason. We didn't have our copy and creative as locked in as we had with our other clients. Now, those are the 4 tips that I wanted to go ahead and share with you, and help you understand how to target your ideal customer even better than before. And I hope you took a lot away from this video. If you're a store owner and you want to add an extra $50,000 to $150,000 in monthly recurring revenue, we should hop on a discovery call and see if we're a good fit for each other, and see what we can do to help you scale. I went ahead and attached a link down in the description below where you can schedule the discovery call, and I would hope to see you there. That's pretty much it for the video. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If you have any questions about Facebook ads or anything regarding to e-commerce marketing, let me know down in the comments section below, and I'll go ahead and see you guys in the next video. See ya.